It all started with the simplest thing, the most mundane routine that weaves the fabric of any married life. It was a Saturday morning, one of those when the sun barely warms the air and the house is enveloped in the tranquility of the weekend. My husband, Diego Navarro Herrera, had left early for work. He gave me his usual kiss on the forehead, uttered his customary "I love you," and promised to be back in time for dinner, as he did every Saturday. We had been married for 9 years in what I considered a solid marriage, built on trust and 2 wonderful children, Tomas, 7, and Lucia, 4. As he gathered the laundry, a crumpled piece of paper fell from his pants pocket. It was a phone bill. I had no reason to suspect anything, but my eyes were drawn to the delivery address. It wasn't our home address, nor his office address. The bill was in his name, yes, but it read 845 Victoria Street, Apartment 3. It was a street on the other side of town, about 40 minutes away, in an area we didn't frequent. My brain tried to rationalize it 1,000 ways. Maybe it was a company mistake, a client's errand, an investment property they hadn't told me about. However, there's a primal instinct that kicks in when a piece of the puzzle doesn't fit. A pang of unease compelled me to look up the address online. It was an ordinary residential complex, neither luxurious nor run down. I left the children with my mother, concocting a lame excuse about an urgent errand, and drove there, guided by a curiosity that quickly turned into a knot in my stomach. When I arrived at 845 Victoria Street, I found myself in front of a 3-story apartment complex with a well-kept front garden. I didn't know what to expect. Maybe a colleague's office, an anonymous mailbox. I located apartment 3 on the ground floor. The curtains were open, revealing the interior. I approached cautiously, expecting to see a stranger, but what my eyes beheld made me grip the brick railing to keep from falling. My knees simply buckled. The room I was looking into was identical to my own. Not similar, not in a similar style. Identical. There was the same gray 3-seater sofa that Diego and I had bought at a discount store 4 years ago. The same wooden coffee table with curved legs. The same beige curtains I had spent weeks choosing online. And hanging on the wall in the exact same position, the landscape painting we had bought on our anniversary trip. I thought I was losing my mind. I closed my eyes, rubbed them hard, hoping the hallucination would disappear, but when I opened them, my life was still there, on display in someone else's shop window. I moved to the next window, which led into the kitchen. Same white cabinets, same gray granite countertop, same refrigerator. And on the refrigerator door, held up by the same magnets I religiously collected on every family trip, were photographs. I squinted. It was Diego. He was smiling, embracing another woman with brown hair, younger than me. There were children in the photos too, a boy who looked about Tomas's age and a girl about Lucia's age. The air left my lungs. This wasn't just infidelity. It was a backup of my existence, a systematic, deliberate, and macabre duplication of our family. I walked toward the building's main entrance. I was about to leave, to flee this madness, when a neighbor came out, and I stopped the door with my foot. I entered the hallway and walked to the end, to apartment 3. In front of the door lay a doormat that said, "Home Sweet Home." It was the same ironic doormat I had bought as a corny joke and that Diego had loved. I raised my hand to knock, but a child's voice from the courtyard stopped me in my tracks. "Mom, Dad's home," a little boy shouted. A woman's voice replied, "No, honey, Dad won't be home until tonight. That's his car he left parked." My husband's car. The one that had supposedly been in the shop for weeks, which was why he used mine every Saturday. The boy recognized my car as his father's. My trembling knuckles finally struck the wood. The door opened, and I found myself face to face with her. She was about 28 years old, with light eyes, wearing an apron, and her hands were covered in flour. Behind her, I could see the apartment in all its mirrored splendor. She looked at me in confusion, hoping I was going to sell her something or that I'd come to the wrong door. Instead, I pointed to the painting on the wall from the doorway. "That painting, where did you buy it?" I asked, my voice cracking. She frowned, taken aback by the strange intrusion. "My husband brought it back from a trip for our anniversary," she replied. "What anniversary? What date?" I pressed. She, uncomfortably but resolutely, answered, March 16th. The blood drained from my face. That's my anniversary, I whispered. My name is Valeria. I'm Diego Navarro Herrera's wife. The color drained from the young woman's face, as if her soul had been emptied out in a single blow. She clung to the doorframe, met my gaze, and knew instantly I wasn't crazy. She invited me in a state of shock. We sat on the gray sofa, my gray sofa in her house, and for a chilling hour, we unraveled Diego's web of lies. She, too, had been married to him for 6 years. They also had 2 children, Mateo and Sofia, 7 and 4 years old, just like mine. We married the same year, me in November and her in March, legally making our husband a bigamist. We compared our schedules. She saw him Monday through Wednesday, I, Thursday through Saturday. On Sundays, he worked on special projects. He wasn't a man with a chaotic double life. He was a systems engineer who had programmed 2 parallel realities with pinpoint precision, even cloning the decor so as not to make the mistake of feeling like a stranger in either of his 2 homes. But what finally broke my spirit wasn't the infidelity or the emotional con. It was at that moment that Sofia, his 4-year-old daughter, came running into the room with a piece of paper in her hand. "Mommy, look, I drew Daddy," she exclaimed joyfully. The crayon drawing showed a man in the center, surrounded by 4 children and 2 women. The little girl looked at me with chilling nonchalance and said, "You're the other mommy, right? Daddy said you were going to come someday." Valeria and I looked at each other with absolute terror, a chill that pierced us to the bone. Diego had made the children accomplices in his atrocity. I took out my phone and, my hands trembling violently, called my son Tomas. I asked him if his father had ever told him about other siblings. There was a 4-second silence that shattered my soul before my little boy answered, "Yes, Mommy. Sometimes on Sundays, Daddy takes us to play with Mateo and Sofia. But he said it was a secret for your birthday."